All right. So the question of what is this person doing? I will show you your results. So this is the fun little word cloud that you guys have been creating. A big word being don't know. A lot of people have answered don't know. That's absolutely fine. Working, very correct. They are doing a job. Someone said climbing a tree. Technically, it's not a tree, it's a pole, but they are climbing. You can see all of the harness and the gear. But what they actually are is they are lines persons. So they have climbed an electric pole. So you can see them if you look in pretty much anywhere in a rural area, and some places in like a bit of a rural area of the city. You'll see these big telegraph poles with like big wires going down them, and they usually have 3 wires. So that's an electricity line. And these guys are going up and fixing and maintaining the electricity lines. So whoever said something with electricity, you're right. Sorting out wires, actually correct. So I actually don't see any technically wrong answers apart from the climbing a tree, which is only half wrong. So thanks for answering that question. This is something that you can do if you become an apprentice at SSE. They will teach you how to do that. And I've been told it's very, very fun. So let's start. Hello, everyone. My name is Luke Woolley. I am a graduate electrical engineer and I work for SSE Renewables. And this is a session designed to sort of help you with your career, give you interview techniques, tell you a little bit about what SSE does, and also just introduce you to apprenticeships and how that might be a different route for you to go if you want to become an engineer. So first of all, who are SSE? Now I have a fun video to play. It's a bit corporate, but bear in mind, and there will be questions on it at the end, so pay attention to the video. All right, so that video just briefly kind of overviews what SSE does. So I'm going to switch the slide on Menti. There we go. So if you were hopefully paying attention to the video, what is SSE's core purposes? Sort of what do they do? What do we do as a company? Feel free to answer this if you already knew, and what else we do. I really like watching the things appear on the screen. It's so cool. So yeah, what have we got here? Lots of renewable energy. Yeah, that is what SSE Renewables does. Lots of renewable energy. Maintain the grid. I'm glad someone mentioned that. We've got SSE Transmission and SSE Networks, who, yes, they maintain and do stuff on the grid, so making sure that your electricity will get to you from the generation. I don't believe we manage water, but we do manage energy. What have we got? Manage Scotland's power. Yeah, we also manage an area of the south as well. So sort of like Southampton area, Isle of Wight area. Because SSE stands for Scottish and Southern Electricity. Whoever put the little duck, very good. We do a lot of conservation work for birds. So currently we're doing something about puffins and identifying puffins using computer vision and making sure that they are not affected by the wind turbines that are close by. Safety. Someone who puts safety. Yeah, safety is a big thing in SSE. We have a strong safety culture. So effectively, when we send someone out on site, we want them to come home. And so we invest a lot of money and a lot of effort into making sure that we have good safety processes. Electricity is dangerous. It will kill you. So we've got a lot of people who make sure that everything is turned off when we're on site, that kind of thing. We do wind turbines, but we also do hydroelectric power stations. And also we have a business called SSE Enterprise, which is about sort of doing electric vehicles, telecoms, and also business services for sort of smart meters, trying to help businesses install things that make their buildings a bit more efficient energy-wise, that kind of thing. So there's lots you can do at SSE. It's not just wind turbines. But yes, tackling climate crisis. That's another good point. We are sponsoring COP26, which is a big climate change conference happening in Glasgow, where a lot of world leaders are going to fly in and talk about how they can help reach net zero. And we're also going to encourage them to think a bit more big and maybe working a little bit harder and doing a lot more than we're currently doing. So yeah, I think everyone here pretty good. We do operate gas as well. We have some gas fleets. We have SSE Thermal, sorry, and they're doing a lot of carbon capture work at the minute. So installing carbon capture devices on our coal and gas, our gas generators to try and reduce the amount of carbon dioxide that's going into the atmosphere. So yeah, everyone done a really good job there actually. And really good engagement, 46 people. That's very good. You guys are definitely doing better than the last group. So yeah, if it's not safe, we don't do it. Safety is a big thing at SSE. So what is an apprenticeship? An apprenticeship is a real job with hands-on experience. You get a salary and you get trained while you work. So you combine gaining practical skills with learning at a college or a university or the training provider. So there's a couple of types of apprenticeships. So some of them are just the normal basic apprenticeship where you learn on the job, or you can do something called a degree apprenticeship where you work as an apprentice half of the time and then the other half of the time you complete a university degree. So you aren't the big thing with apprenticeship is you're not limited to that company. Once you finish the apprenticeship scheme at that company, you will get a qualification and you can use that qualification to apply to other jobs if you so wish, especially if you do the degree apprenticeship. So I've got a video where some apprenticeships are going to tell you about what they get up to.
I'm Katrina. I'm a trainee engineer in the onshore electrical wind team and based at Griffin Wind Farm. I feel very lucky to work here every day. It's spectacular and it's a very chill day-to-day working life, and I get to work with a really good team of people as well. SSE had the most inviting websites when I went on to look at jobs, and they've got a really good safety policy as well, and that's really important to me. My message to any females thinking about joining this industry is that you just have to go for it. It's a really good industry to get into. There's loads of job prospects. Everyone that I've ever worked with has treated me really well. They'll go out their way to help you, and you have a fun day at work.
So we arrive, usually we start at about 7 in the morning, and then we'll find out whether we're onshore or offshore. And if we're offshore, we'll load the boat up and then go out to the turbines, do the jobs and the tasks that need doing, and then return home. But when the weather's really bad, it's a non-sail day, so we spend the day at the office doing tasks and base checks and things for the turbines, but onshore. What attracted me to an apprenticeship at SSE was their policies and the fact that you're making a difference, so you're doing something better. The apprenticeship lasts for 4 years, and my goal is to hopefully progress and stay with SSE.
I think the main draw was the opportunity to learn and work at the same time in the industry that I want to work in. I wanted to continue an engineering role, and this was the perfect opportunity for me. My one top tip would be to research the role you'll be applying for and find out as much as you can about the industry that you'll be working in, as you will be asked about that.
All right, so hopefully that gave you a little bit of a overview of what an apprenticeship's like. So to check that you were paying attention, I'm going to switch the slide on the Menti. So if you could answer, what did the apprenticeships like about their job? So the same code and everything as before. Try and think about to the video and what they talked about. All right, I'm going to put this up because they're coming thick and fast. So there's a lot of talk about working and earning. That's a big draw. So obviously, if you go to university, you're paying to learn, so you will end up in a lot of student debt. And the benefit of an apprenticeship scheme is you actually earn an apprenticeship wage. So you actually earn money and you're still learning at the same time. The safety policies, yeah. So it's quite safe to work at SSE, despite the fact that we work with these massive machines and electricity is so dangerous. We have a really, really strict safety policy. And it's that we still get work accidents, but they're getting less and less. How do I phrase this? Less and less extreme. And every time one of those happens, there's a big review and we make sure we learn from it. So it's actually becoming more and more safe in this industry. And the people, yeah, everyone at SSE is so lovely. They're so ready to help you. There's no stupid questions in SSE. Everyone just really loves engineering and wants to share their knowledge. And yeah, making a difference. A lot of people at SSE really love the fact that it's when you're telling people what you do for a living, being able to say I work in renewable energy is really great. And a lot of my friends are quite jealous that I get to. So if they work in a bank, say, it's not quite as morally impressive, I guess. Yeah, so just fun while working and learning, and it's a little bit less stressful than going to university, I think, especially as you're earning money, so you're not losing anything. So yeah, really good questions. And again, the boat emoji, very relevant. So now we've got a job role matching quiz. So we're not doing all of the jobs here because that would take a long time, but there's some jumbled up descriptions on the right and some job roles on the left. And if I get open Menti again, so if I switch the slide, so the first question on the Menti is, what does a line person do? And I've given you 4 options to choose from. So if you can remember back to the start of the presentation, you'll probably have a better chance of answering this. Gonna give it another few seconds, just as we've still got some people coming through. And if you don't have access to Menti for whatever reason, feel free to just write them down instead. So put lines person and then the letter behind next to it. All right, I think I'm going to show what you guys have answered now. So most of you said install, repair, and maintain SSE's overhead lines and cables, and the most of you would be correct. So yeah, lines person is, as you saw at the start, they go up and repair and maintain the overhead lines and cables, because lots of things could happen to them. Lightning strikes, sometimes the wind blows them together and blows the whole network, or the insulation wears down over time. Lots of different things. So yeah, but when they go up on these poles, they are de-energized, so they're not at risk of being electrocuted. And they have all their safety gear, so all the harnesses and all of that stuff. All right, cool. So Next question is, what is a data analyst? So there's lots of different types of roles at SSE and in the energy industry. Not all of them are working directly with the energy itself. So this is a bit of a more interesting one. All right, I think that's enough people probably. Keep answering if you want though. Don't feel you need to stop. So yeah, so most of you have said use data to gather information and solve problems, and the majority of you are correct. So a data analyst job is to look at energy production, the area that we're actually going to place the wind turbine or the hydroelectric power station, sort of the capacity on the grid, the wind speeds, wake effects, all sorts of things. Take all this data and try and place our assets in the best places possible, because the more efficient and better placed we can put our equipment, the cheaper it will be to build it, the less we have to charge for electricity, and the more money the consumer saves at the other end. So it's beneficial to everyone that a data analyst does their job correctly. The amount of money that the consumer pays for on your electricity bill compared to how much we get from it to build our power lines is a lot less than you think. I believe it's something like 0.4% or something really low. You'd have to Google it, but the majority of it will go to your energy provider, but a small portion of it goes to us to build the transmission lines and maintain them, so that when there is a lightning strike and one of them breaks, we can fix it as quick as possible so that you guys get your electricity back as quick as possible. So yeah, data analysis, very, very important job, and a lot more fun than it sounds. So next question is, what is a senior authorized person? Now, this person's job is very, very important, and you have to do quite a intensive qualification in order to become a senior authorized person. All right, I think that's quite a few people have answered. So a lot of you have answered the last one, plan, design, organize, control, monitor. And yeah, again, you guys are on fire today. Most of you are correct. Now, I can see why some of you answered the implement new electrical systems, but that's not technically correct. A senior authorized person is just someone who has the authority to stop, make sure if something goes wrong, they will be like, this isn't safe, we're stopping right now. They monitor to make sure any construction on site is being done well. They're also usually the ones that will switch off the power supply because they'll know which buttons to press and where to go that's safe. And they also plan, design, and organize sort of these maintenance plans and stuff like that, because they've basically done these really high-level safety courses. And so they know exactly which things you can touch and what things you can't touch, what kind of PPE the workers will need, any checks that we need to do before we're allowed to start maintenance work on site, and are just generally there to make sure everyone gets home at the end of the day. So their job is very, very important, and you usually become a senior authorized person quite late on in your career after you've got a lot of experience. And again, as I've said, the qualifications for it are really hard because you have to really know your stuff, because you're responsible for people's safety. So yeah, very, very, very important role, and not one that many people know about. So next question is, what is an electrical engineer? And this is what I do. So hopefully Just wait for a couple of more people. All right, so let's reveal. Most of you got it right. It is to design and implement new electrical systems onto the SSE network. So this could be within thermals, making sure that the connection to grid is good. This could be in renewables, where we do the inter-array cables between wind turbines, or the connection to grid at the hydroelectric power station level. Or it could be working on the grid itself, so doing the transmission lines, the network lines, making sure everything isn't got too much electricity on it. Or you could be working in building services, so looking at making sure companies are working efficiently, installing smart meters, that kind of thing. There's so many different areas you can be in as an electrical engineer. It's just basically anything that involves electricity. So yeah, very good. If you want to be an electrical engineer, would recommend it. Very important job as well. Everyone wants electricity to power their iPads. Okay, cool. I think this is the last one. What is an environmental advisor? Now, this is a really good example of how you can work in an engineering company or work in an energy company and not have an engineering degree or apprenticeship. An environmental advisor might have a geography degree, an environmental sciences degree, something like that, or have just worked for someone like RSPB or the marine people, Nature Scott. So very much there is not one route into the energy industry. And this is also a very important role. All right, I think there's a clear winner here. So we've got everyone. Most people are saying make sure that all SSE operations comply with environmental regulations and targets, and you're correct. So we actually employ someone to make sure that we are building our wind farms in a way that isn't going to disrupt the environment, for instance, and also isn't going to break any rules that are in place. It's really important to SSE to make sure that we are. The whole point of renewable energy is to preserve the planet and prevent climate change getting any worse, right? So there'd be no point in us building a wind turbine that's going to kill a lot of animals. That would be completely against our philosophy. So we employ an environmental advisor that can help us, and they'll do surveys. So they'll go out and be like, oh, there's too many birds in this area, so you need to build it there. Or there's too much marine life in the sea, so you cannot build your wind turbines here. And or in some cases, they'll suggest us building trees to act as soundproofing around the wind farm, or we will place, say, for instance, in boggy areas, there's a lot of newts, and newts are protected species. So we will actually build them a new boggy area that is even better than the current boggy area that they have, and put them there so that we aren't damaging any animals, any existing habitat, that kind of thing. It's a really, really big worry in our industry, because not only is it a lot of fines if you mess it up, but also it's really bad reputationally, and it just is bad. We don't want to do it. So very important role to make sure that we are keeping not just humans safe, but animals safe. And yeah, another one of those ones where you don't need an engineering degree to be in that role. So I'm just going to go through and show what the other roles are. I'll just point out some fairly interesting ones. So corporate comms officer is not only there to make sure that we have an excellent reputation and make sure that we don't get any too much negative press, especially unwarranted negative press, but also mostly there to make sure that when we are communicating to the general public, we want to make sure that our communication is understandable. As a engineer, I can appreciate that sometimes my explanations are way too complicated, whereas a corporate comms officer will be like, no, you need to rephrase that in a way that someone else is going to understand, because we want our customers to understand what is happening and what is going on. And also we want to make sure that our the general public understand that when we're building a new wind farm, for instance, what's going on, how much money we're investing, where, that kind of thing. So they're really, really good way of making sure that we are telling the public what they need to know and in a way that they can actually understand it. Cool. So what do SSE look for? So again, most good companies will have this philosophy. We're interested in people, so we care about teamwork, problem solving, resilience, communication, enthusiasm, and aptitude. Exam results are not their be all and end all. Exam results don't really reflect you much as a person, and if they and so you need to get good enough results, but you don't need to have insanely good results, especially if you have good interpersonal skills like this team working. We are much more interested in that. You can teach someone science, but it's much harder to get along with and teach someone who's not very communicative. I would much rather be in a team with someone who's very open and honest, especially when they've got things wrong, than someone who is a genius and doesn't say a word to you. Engineering is a team working environment. You are working in a team. You have to have good skills with talking to other people. I'm not saying you have to be an extrovert, but you just have to be prepared to be open and honest with your teammates. Someone who's really, really intelligent but doesn't talk to anyone is not, the fact that they're intelligent isn't useful to us if we can't obtain the information. So yeah, people, not exam results. So when you're in an interview, you need to think about your hobbies and your interests and any other activities you do outside, volunteering that you've been involved with, because you can really easily match those kinds of external to school things you do to the above attributes. So we're going to do an example of that now. So I'm going to change my slide on Menti. So if you could all type in to Menti, when have you felt under pressure? So this could be at school, outside of school, in a hobby, could be at church, at scouts, at army cadets, anything like that. Just think about a time when you were under pressure. Exams is always a popular one. It'd be nice to have a few that are not exams. The pressure of making people proud is, yeah, very relevant for exams, but also I think that's a nice one in our general day-to-day life. That happens at work as well. You feel kind of this pressure to please your boss or your teammates to make sure that everyone's happy. Meeting a deadline, that's a big one. That happens for the rest of your life, unfortunately. Exams goes away. the deadlines do not. Higher dance, that whole class was a lot. I've not done dance, I have to admit, but I can imagine egos are high. My first day of American football, trying a new sport, very, very intimidating. New social interactions, yeah, meeting new people always is. During an art contest, I came second. Well, congratulations on coming second. But yeah, contests are really stressful. Speaking in front of a large group, again, I'm quite nervous speaking in front of you. I feel a bit under pressure to make sure that you guys are listening, that I'm not really boring and a waste of your time. 2020 and 2021, now that is a mood. The whole of this past 2 years has been very insane, and I feel so sorry for you guys at school. I can't imagine how difficult it is to do exams. I did my last year of university during COVID, and that was a lot, so I can't imagine having to do that again for another year. When I'm trying to scramble my eggs before they turn into an omelette, yeah, I can get behind that one as well. These are really, really good examples. So as you can see here, we've got ones from school, but ones outside of school. Doesn't necessarily have to be in school. So if you think about your experience and answer these questions sort of to yourself. So how did that experience make you feel? I imagine to the people speaking in front of a large group of people, that's like quite nerve-wracking. The art competition, you're just sat there really tense because they're just the stress of not knowing. Were you tempted to give up? When you're making scrambled eggs, do you just stop stirring because you can't be bothered anymore? What actions do you take to overcome it? So when you're going to your sport event for the first time that you've never tried before? Do you look up on the internet how to play it? Do you talk to the coach beforehand and let them know that you've not got experience before? Do you try and do breathing exercises to calm yourself down? What skills do you use to overcome it? So in the example of the dance, do you communicate that you're feeling under pressure? So with your coach, or if you can't tell your coach because they're the ones giving you the pressure, maybe talk to an adult or your fellow dance mates or someone else, maybe even higher up in the chain. And then what was the outcome in the end? And I assume most of it is that you got through it and you did it. And you might not have succeeded and done really well, but the fact that you got through it is a success in itself. So if you can answer these questions during an interview when someone asks you, when have you felt under pressure? And instead of just telling them an example, tell them an example and then how you overcame it and what skills you used. It is such a good question and answer in an interview, especially because you don't need to use job or school to answer this question. You can just use general stuff. And the more cool and interesting, so like the dance and the art that you can make the answer, the more the interviewer will be interested in it. They'll have heard 1,000,001 answers about exams to this. They don't care anymore about exams. They'll want to know the more interesting ones. So, as I've said before, you can always relate a lot of these back to these 5 main aptitudes. Communication and teamwork being a big one. Most things require communication and teamwork, and then obviously problem solving. So the interview process. This is not as scary as it seems. That's my first point. So remember, you have been invited to this interview because they think you can do the job. They'll have read your CV, they'll have read your cover letter, and they'll be like, yes, this person can do this job. All the interview is about is to make sure that what you've said is true. And it is not there to trip you up. It is not there to trick you. The interviewers do not gain any enjoyment out of making people suffer. In fact, it is the opposite. They hate doing that. If you're really nervous, they will do everything they can to calm you down. I've never met an interviewer that has been sadistic and genuinely enjoyed making, especially younger people, stressed out. They just want you to be charming and passionate. So this is the opportunity for you to sell yourself. If you have a really cool story, so for instance, I ran a music concert for my school in order to earn money for charity, and they don't ever ask you a question that lets you tell them that. Just say it. Just tell them it. They're always really interested to hear about stuff that makes you an individual and makes you a really cool person. Again, the interview is a two-way process. So they're very much there to make sure that you are what you say you are. They're not there for you to prove that you're like the best person ever. Oftentimes in an interview, they'll be hiring more than one person as well. So it is not a competition. You are not against anyone. It is just for them to see if you're a good fit for their company. However, on the flip side to that, an interview is also about making sure you think you will enjoy yourself. A job is a long time, and it is a lot of effort and time to apply to new jobs. So you kind of want to make sure that when you are joining a job, it is what you want to be doing. And so the best way to do that is in the interview is to ask some questions like, what's the typical day in a role like? What kind of office atmosphere do you have? For instance, I applied to 2 jobs. I applied to 2 energy jobs at 2 different companies. One company I think I dropped off for a second there. Team's telling me to shut up. Anyway, I didn't really enjoy that company at all, and then I went to the other company, and they were so much better, so much more open. Everyone wanted to have a chat. The reception lady was absolutely lovely. The interviewer was lovely. Everyone I met in the corridor was amazing. And I was like, I need to work at this company. And I got the job offer at the other company, but I turned it down because I was just like, you didn't prove to me that you would be a good company to work for. It was almost like they had the arrogance that they were an amazing company and they didn't have to try it. And I didn't appreciate that. So the interview process, 100% two-way. So yeah, ask questions, ask loads of questions. Interviewers love questions and it shows that you care about the job. So there's a few different, so our interview process is quite similar to most other energy business interview processes. So you can kind of take this as more generic. You'll do a situational judgment test. So stuff like if you were to be offered money for information, what would you do? Strength-based interview, so asking you those questions to showcase your teamwork, communication, problem solving, resilience, yada yada yada. The assessment center will be a group activity usually, where you have to come up with a solution to a problem in a team, and it's just a way for them to see how you would work in a team and whether you would ask the right question. So if oftentimes they'll give you information that is either wrong or you won't be able to understand because you won't have all the information you need, and they are just the interviewers who are around watching you are waiting for you to ask the question that you don't know the answer. That shows to them that you are prepared to admit when you're wrong, and that is such a valuable asset. So yeah, if there's a bit of information in the packet that you don't get, please ask the interviewer. It will be bonus points for you. And then there's a final interview, which is a bit more informal. It's more you asking them questions about the company. And oftentimes you'll also do a technical test. So it's just a maths test, basically. So strength-based interview, focus on what you're good at. So as I've done the example before, think about what are you good at and what skills does that showcase? Someone who's talking about something they're passionate about is far more likely to come across well. So you want to just talk about things you're really interested in, and the passion will come across to the interviewer. I'd say with these different types of interviews, you are very unlikely to have the panel interview, which is just a bunch of people asking questions, and you're very unlikely to have the technical question because you're just coming out of school. They won't expect you to know anything really. But the competency-based one about the problem-solving skills, they will do, and the short telephone interview might happen, especially right now with the world in the state it is. It's just to ask you, like, what school did you go to? What grades do you have? What extracurricular activities do you have? Just kind of about you, really. So again, when you're in an interview, think about what motivates you, what excites you, what gets you out in the bed in the morning, and focus on that because you will come across better in the interview. There's no point talking about maths if you hate maths. They will figure out that you hate maths. So just briefly, just think about to yourself, answer one of these. So what are you interested in? What do you find easy? What do you find easy? You could be really good at maths and find it easy. You could find English really easy. You could find computer games really easy. And then also maybe think about when you achieve success, what are you doing? So for me, I always perform a lot better when I'm discussing things with other people and I'm working in a team. You might be really good at just sitting down and working out a problem on your own. Or you might be really good when you are helping someone else. It doesn't matter. They're all really good skills to have. So now you want to cross-reference. So let's take the example of I'm really good at video games and I run a group that we video game together. That is a really good team working skill because you are working together to play video games. It's a good leadership skill because you're organizing people. It's a good time management skill because you've got to make sure that you're playing your video games and also getting your homework done at the same time. So just taking something simple as playing video games, you can turn into so many skills. So here's some really good examples. So we've got Alfie on the right here, who says, I achieved success when my football team won a tournament last year. Now, that's a pretty generic statement, and it's probably something that a lot of people might have done, but you can really easily turn it into a really good answer. So this is demonstrating communication. So you can rephrase it to, I feel energized when I'm able to use my communication skills within my football squad to help us win games. And that's just telling the interviewer, I'm a good team worker and I can communicate really well and really efficiently. And that's exactly the kind of thing they want to hear. But you notice that the original statement was just something that you do every day. So it doesn't have to be, I climbed Mount Everest. That's an unrealistic goal. It could just be as simple as I saw someone was being bullied at school and I stepped in to help. You know, just like small little things can be really valuable. So I've got now a video of some apprentices that are going to talk to you about some advice that they would give you.
One tip for anyone coming to interview for an apprenticeship would be to be confident.
My one top tip would be to research the role you'll be applying for and find out as much as you can about the industry that you'll be working in, as you will be asked about that.
My one tip would be open and honest and be yourself. Show how keen you are and how willing you are to be in the industry, because in 10 years' time you'll look back at it and you'll realise it's the best thing you've ever done.
My tip for an SSE apprentice would be make sure you do your research on the company, make sure you know what they do, and make sure you know what you'll be doing in the future.
Do some research about the role before you come into the interview. It's good to make sure you know the role, you know what you're applying for, and that to be something you're interested in, so that when you sit down with the interviewer or interviewers, you're coming across as interested, you're coming across as knowledgeable about the apprenticeship you're applying for, and potentially have some questions up your sleeve that you can maybe ask to the interviewer, something along the lines of what type of work do you specialise in? Is it domestic, is it industrial, is it commercial? Just again to show that this is a job that you want, this is something you're interested in, and hopefully that will kind of stand you out in terms of interviews.
My one top tip would be enthusiasm is key and ask lots of questions.
The one tip I'll give any apprentice when coming in for an interview is to be upfront with any special assistance. The interviewers are willing to accommodate to your every need.
Okay, so my top interviewing tips for apprentices is to relax, to be yourself, and to be really honest with us about the kind of things that you enjoy, because of the things that you enjoy are the things that make you a good apprenticeship. That will stand you in good stead at the interview.
So there's some good top tips for SSE apprenticeship interviews or just any interview really. So if you are interested, there's a QR code and also a link to the careers website. I believe the apprenticeship application has already been and gone, but it's worth double checking because I actually should have probably looked this up and I don't know. But the ones next year will definitely be open, which will be more relevant for you because I believe you're in the first year of your last 2 years of education. And also, if you're just interested in the future, we do a graduate program where you do different placements around the company. That's super fun. And there's just lots of stuff you can do. And it's always worth looking at other companies to see what apprenticeships they offer, because apprenticeships are great. It's a way to learn without getting into huge amounts of student debt. So that is, I believe, time. But if anyone has any brief questions that they want to ask me, please feel free to unmute.
Come on, career ready students. This is something that you're going to have to do, possibly in an interview, possibly in your presentation. Is there anything that you would like to ask Luke? We've got a couple of minutes left, I think, before you have to leave and maybe go on to another presentation, but it would be nice to hear some voices.
Oh, actually, while we wait, if you could download the attendance. Yeah, you can ask me any question about uni as well. It doesn't have to be apprenticeships. I don't mind. Or like, what do I do every day?
What's it like at uni? Is it as stressful as it's stereotyped to be, or is it more calmer and relaxing than it's let on to be?
Yeah, that's a good point. It is. That's a question that is dependent on you as a person, I think. I would say that so for me, I got all my uni work done 9 till 6 p.m. I'd go to uni at 9, I'd be done by 6 and I get all my work done. I literally never pulled an all-nighter. However, if you're like some of my friends and you like to procrastinate until the last minute, you might find yourself pulling all-nighters. Also, university, because I finished my last year during COVID, that was really stressful because we didn't know what our grades were doing. But I would say that it's probably the same amount of stress as when you're at A levels. So the exam stress and the coursework stress is quite a lot. But if you do engineering, you do a lot of modules that are like modular. So you'll be picking up grades here and there. And if you do really well in the beginning at your initial courseworks, we actually all in our 4th year worked out all our marks, and it turned out I only needed like 40% in my last modules to like get a first overall. So it's totally dependent on you as a person. I'd say if you work 9 till 6, ask your professors questions, go to their office hours, go through past papers, and join lots of societies so you have friends to talk to and de-stress with. Uni is not stressful at all. However, if you're more of a type of a person who's like procrastinates and does everything last minute, or it doesn't ask the professor for help, then I can see uni being very, very stressful. But I would say I would really highly recommend not doing those all-nighters because it just snowballs. But yeah, uni is not as stressful as they make it out to be. I didn't find it that bad. It was just the same as A levels, or Scottish Highers, I guess.
Zoe's just asked, did you find that an apprenticeship was less stressful than just jumping right into full-time uni or a regular job?
So I actually didn't do an apprenticeship, so I can't answer that very well. But what I can say is my friends who are doing apprenticeships are less stressed about stuff like money. At uni, you're constantly like in overdrafts and like and student loans. But then getting a job at the end of the apprenticeship and the university is like the least stressful of all of them because there's no grades, right? You're not being graded on anything anymore. So your performance review is a little bit more casual. And I find that a lot less stressful, whereas being given a number saying that this is how well you've done, I don't really like that. So I think the apprenticeship is less stressful work-wise, but I think the apprenticeship in terms of social stuff, you are a little bit more on your own. There isn't quite that massive group of students that you have at a university. So it depends what you prefer as your learning style. Do you prefer working out of a book, or do you prefer learning and doing? That's basically the difference, I would say.
Anyone else? Before we have to wrap up?
Are you close with your professors and the people from the SSC?
So there were a couple of professors I got on really well with. And there are a couple of professors that were just not nice. You know what I mean? Like it depends. And also, if the professor's not nice, usually you just report them because they should be. And most professors will, if you send them an email and ask for help, they will, regardless of how well they know you. And then in terms of SSC in my career, everyone is so nice and so friendly that I've made already loads of friends. And if it wasn't for COVID, I probably would have been going to the pub with them by this point. And everyone is super interested in making sure that you are like doing well in your career and that you're doing well. So I'd say maybe it's just SSC. I can't say about other companies, but they're a lot more invested in you than a professor would be. But you have to bear in mind that a professor is just a massive nerd in the topic that they enjoy. So if you ask them to talk more about that interest that they have, they won't. Sometimes I struggle to leave the professor's office because they wouldn't shut up about the things they were talking about. So I would definitely utilize the professors more than because they'll know. Oh, okay. We got how do you deal with public speaking? Well, I'm naturally I quite enjoy talking to people. I'm a natural extrovert. So the initial hump for me was a bit easier, I'd say. But I've been doing public speaking and presentations since I was 11, because I used to run youth services at church. And I have to say, the more you do it, the easier it gets. So it's a case of just doing 5 really terrible ones to begin with and learning from them. And then as you do them more, you will get better. It is like any skill, just practice it. And bear in mind that if you're really nervous in front of your class, half the class don't care about you and aren't paying attention, and the other half of the class are also just as nervous about their own presentation that's about to happen. So no one is that interested in your presentation, to be frank. So I would say that get presentation experience at school while people aren't that interested, and then you'll gain the skill. And just know that most people who are listening to a presentation want you to do well. They're not there to try and tease you. So that's my advice, I would say. And I think there was one more question that I'll answer.
How many years did you spend at uni, and what was your favourite part about it?
I did 4 years because I did a master's, because I want to get chartered as an engineer, and you kind of need one to be chartered. And my favourite part at uni was the societies. The work was good and I liked it, and I do engineering, but it's still work, right? Whereas the societies were where you could de-stress. I met so many friends. I did random societies. And the drinking aspect, actually, you think is the funnest part at uni, but retrospectively, it was definitely going to societies and doing the social activities. And I play saxophone, so just playing with my mates or climbing with my mates, or I used to fix an old bus. That was really fun. So when you're at uni, you think that it's the drinking that's the most important part, but it really is not. It is the meeting new people in societies part that I found the most fun.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Luke. We've got one final question, but we've kind of running out of time, but I'm sure, Luke, if you don't mind asking what societies you joined.
So I did Toast Rack, which was fixing a Charabang bus 1929 thing. I joined jazz band. I joined concert band. I was social sec for the Electronics and Computer Science Society, which was just a lot of going out and drinking. I briefly joined the Mountaineering Society. I did a bit of canoeing with the Canoeing Society, and I think that's it. I believe there are so many rando societies out there that just have fun, and you don't have to do the same every year. I did different ones every year.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, and thank you so much, Luke, for your time. That was really fantastic, and I'm sure everybody enjoyed it. For everybody that's still here, going on to your next insight, enjoy and have a fantastic time at your internship. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.